How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Film Review, episode number 50. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday and got everything that you ever asked for. Well, we have reached the end of the year, so now it's time to look back at the top 10 films of 2011. Now, bear in mind, this is just my opinion. You know, there might be some picks on here that you don't agree with, and some that you feel I might have left off. That's totally fine. Well, let's get started. And before starting the countdown, I want to list off some of my honorable mentions. I mean, these are all great films that didn't quite make the cut, but they are all excellent in their own right. I have about 6 of them listed here, so I'll just list them off really quickly. We have Hugo, Warhorse, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, Take Shelter, X-Men First Class, and Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Now let's move on to the list itself. At number 10, I have Steven Spielberg's The Adventures of Tintin. Now I know what you're thinking. Why is this on here and not Warhorse? Well, I flat out love this movie. I mean, finally we have motion capture animation that feels realistic. It just took teaming Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson to do it. I mean, the medium allows them to create some really fantastic action sequences that would never be possible with live action. There's one in particular toward the end of the film that is a 5-minute long take with no cuts. It's just extraordinary. I mean, Spielberg is a master at the action-adventure genre, and he pulls it off big time with this one. Coming in at number 9 is a film that I feel has gone under the radar since it came out in April, and that is Hanna. This was one of the biggest surprises of the year for me because I honestly didn't know what to expect going into this. And I love the fact that this film is a coming-of-age fairy tale that's also a pretty kick-ass action movie. I think Joe Wright's direction is incredibly stylish, and he brings such originality and flair to the proceedings. Plus, the Chemical Brothers score really drives the film, and it's whimsical and tense at just the right places. I think Saoirse Ronan and Cate Blanchett also give great performances, and this features some of the most thrilling action of the year. Definitely one of the most underrated films of 2011. Number 8 is another animated film that blew me away, and that is Rango. I mean, this is a film that I think works for film buffs like myself, and it's pretty brilliant. I mean, the animation is almost photorealistic, and I think the filmmakers lovingly capture the feel of like classic spaghetti westerns. I think Johnny Depp does a great job in the title role of the quirky chameleon, and I love how ballsy and strange this film is. I mean, I'm really surprised that a major studio released this film, because it has the feel of like a classic acid trippy western, and it pays homage to films such as Apocalypse Now, Good, the Bad, the Ugly, and even Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I mean, I don't think it's a film that most kids would understand, but that's part of the reason why I think I love it so much. Number 7 is the cancer dramedy 50/50. There are so many movies out there that try to blend both comedy and drama, but I think 50/50 does it almost perfectly and effortlessly. I mean, there are several scenes here where I was laughing hysterically, and definitely a few moments where I was actually on the verge of tears. I think the film really benefits greatly from the script written by Will Reiser, who himself was diagnosed with cancer. And Seth Rogen, I think, is at his most naturally funny here, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt gives an incredibly heartfelt performance that is probably going to get ignored by the Academy. I think the genuine mix of these two genres makes this my number 7 pick of the year. Number 6 is The Muppets. Now, I kind of have a personal bias with this one because I grew up with these characters from a very young age, and there's a lot of nostalgia with this pick. But I sincerely feel that Jason Segel captured the spirit of Jim Henson's original creation so beautifully. I mean, I think I was smiling from the first frame to the last, and it made me feel like a kid again watching these guys for the very first time. I think it's also one of the funniest, if not the funniest movie I've seen all year, with all of its self-aware humor and great gags, and the songs written by Bret McKenzie are fantastic. If 1 or 2 of them aren't nominated for Best Original Song at the Oscars this year, there is something seriously wrong with the Academy. And I think ultimately this is a very sincere and heartfelt tribute to the group that could not be any better. Moving into my top 5 now, at number 5 is another forgotten film from September, and that is Warrior. The reason why this is ranked so high on my list is because it worked the most for me emotionally out of any movie this year. I mean, at first glance, it looks like your very typical sports drama, but I think what separates this from the others are the very subtle, nuanced performances here from Joel Edgerton, Nick Nolte, and Tom Hardy. They all give amazing work here, making their characters very quietly compelling. And I also think the MMA fights are very rousing and exciting, and personally, I think the last 10 minutes of this movie are some of the most powerful and emotional of the entire year, and I will admit, had me bawling like a baby. Probably my favorite ending to a movie this year. If you have not seen Warrior, I urge you to check it out immediately. Coming in at number 4 is The Artist. Now this was a film that I'd heard a lot of great things about going in, but I was a bit skeptical because it seemed a little too gimmicky for me. But I could not have been more happy to have been proven wrong, because I think this film is a really wonderful tribute to the silent era, and we get very charming and compelling performances from both Jean Dujardin and Bernice Bejo. Now I think the director too, whose name I won't even try to pronounce, it gives off a very strong sense of style that helps propel the storytelling forward. This movie really is one of those that reminds me of what magic that movies can bring to our lives. Let's just say that it'd be very hard to imagine someone walking out of this movie and not loving it. My number 3 pick for 2011 is David Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Again, this is another personal bias because I've read all the books, plus Fincher's one of my favorite directors. But I dare you to find a more tightly put together thriller that's come out this year. I think the pacing just never lets up for over 2.5 hours, and each minute of that 2.5 hours is incredibly engaging thanks to Fincher's direction and the score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Also, Rooney Mara gives an absolutely phenomenal performance as Lisbeth Salander. I mean, she's angry and yet vulnerable at the same time, and that just makes her incredibly fascinating to watch. Plus, I don't think I'll ever hear Enya sail away the same way ever again after watching this film. Number 2 on my list belongs to Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life. I know this is a very divisive film, with some calling it a brilliant work of art while others call it pretentious garbage. Obviously, I belong in the first group. I think Terrence Malick is one of the best visual directors out there, and the images he creates in this film are just absolutely beautiful. You could pause any one of these shots and it would look just like a painting. I also think we get some very excellent performances here from both Brad Pitt and Jessica Chastain. I've seen this film a few times now, and I still don't think I can fully grasp everything that this film is showing me, but it is absolutely a film that will stay with you long after you've seen it. It is a true piece of cinema that is unlike anything else made this year. But there was only one film that stood out on top among the rest. At number 1, Nicolas Winding Refn's Drive. Drive is one of those movies that as soon as it's over, you just want to start watching it all over again. On paper, its premise sounds very simple and cliched, but Drive feels like such a fresh and original piece of filmmaking. There is not one weak element here. The performances from this cast, especially Ryan Gosling, Bryan Cranston, and Albert Brooks, are fantastic. The cinematography is incredible at capturing the nighttime feel of LA. The soundtrack and the score invokes the classic 80s thrillers just perfectly, and the direction by Winding Refn is extraordinary. I love the fact that this movie takes its time in setting up its characters and its relationships in the story, so that when everything hits the fan, it's incredibly shocking and mesmerizing. There are so many moments here that are going to be burned into my memory forever, and that is why Drive is the best film of 2011. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video and hearing my favorites, but now I want to hear from you. What were your favorite movies of 2011? Do you agree with me? Am I way off? Please let me know in the comment box below. I cannot wait to hear from all of you. Anyway, it's been a great year for film, but I think next year is going to be even better. Thank you for watching, have a happy new year, and I will see you all in 2012.